Hey, this is Dr. Drew, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite vitamins. And it's not just a vitamin, it's actually a pro-hormone because it touches so many systems in the body. It is that important. I'm talking about vitamin D3. Now, most of you know it as a sunshine vitamin. I've talked about it at length. There was a video I did where I was talking about your labs come back normal and you still feel terrible. One of the ones I highlighted was vitamin D3 because there's such a huge range and there's an epidemic of deficiency going on because most people are not living in areas where they get enough direct sunlight, and it completely impacts their health in a negative way. So that's one of the main things we'll start with. Is one of the main reasons you probably have low vitamin D is you don't get enough sunlight. And don't kid yourself, even during the summer months, most people are fully clothed, they're not getting chest and back exposure of sunlight, and they're putting a bunch of toxic sunscreen on their body which prevents the light from hitting your skin. Now, what happens when sunlight hits your skin is it actually twists cholesterol molecules that are part of your cell membranes, and then that starts the process of vitamin D creation. So the sunlight hits your skin, twists cholesterol, sends it into the bloodstream, and it goes through a variety of activation processes. One's in the liver, and then finally in the kidney it gets activated into vitamin D3. So sunlight is critical. You shouldn't be scared of the sun. And when possible, you should be getting chest and back exposure at least 15 to 20 minutes a day. Now, we're not looking to burn. I'm talking about sensible sun exposure. So you don't want to burn, but you want a little pink hue to happen. This is important because it will help darken your skin. The melanocytes will push out more melanin and give you that nice sort of bronze look. And then you're generating vitamin D at quite a rapid rate. I mean, the need for vitamin D supplementation almost goes to zero if you can get high quality sunlight daily. Trouble is, most people don't. So that's where the supplements come in. But I've noticed a theme over the last few years that people that living, way north where they don't get a lot of sun and test their vitamin D levels, they come back low. And then after even months of supplementation, we retest again. And then I've noticed that it doesn't always come up the way you'd expect. But what happens and what do you do when you're taking all this vitamin D, or you maybe even done some vitamin D shots yet it still comes back low? That's where you need to start looking at these other cofactors. And one of the big ones is lack of sulfur. We don't have a lot of sulfur in the diet anymore, and people will go deficient in it. And then there's sulfated forms of vitamin D that our body creates, but guess what? Won't create it if you don't have enough sulfur coming in. So one of the main sources of sulfur is a lot of mineral water. So San Pellegrino is a good example where it has a lot of SO4 naturally occurring within it. MSM is another really good source. It's used a lot for pain and inflammation, and it's another good supplemental form of sulfur. Garlic and onions have a little bit of sulfur. So you need to kind of look to these foods that maybe you're not getting enough of in your diet, or use some supplemental sulfur when your vitamin D levels just stay low despite supplementation, because it may be sulfur that you need more of. Another big one is if you look at where vitamin D comes from, I already mentioned cholesterol is kind of like the backbone for it, right? So cholesterol starts this process. So if you're on a statin, or you're blocking your cholesterol, or you're not eating enough high quality fats or cholesterol based foods, you might have low cholesterol. Now you don't have enough substrate to actually create vitamin D in the first place. So this is important because all your sex hormones come from cholesterol too, not just your vitamin D. So very important not to fear cholesterol. It was put in our body for a reason. People just hear that word and automatically think bad, but it is there to serve a function, right? Your cholesterol, right? It's precursor to vitamin D, your cell membranes, your sex hormones. So you need it in the right amount. Too much, just as bad as too little. In fact, tanking your cholesterol levels too aggressively with statins is even worse, and it puts you at higher risk of a heart attack. So it's all about the sweet spots here. Another one for vitamin D that you just can't get into that reference range, or more importantly, optimal range. And I should talk about what that is here briefly. There's an optimal range in the Canadian units. It's around 125 to 150, and the American units is about 50 to 70. Now, a lot of people are falling sub those numbers. Now, these are optimal numbers I'm quoting, because if you look at the reference range, it's huge. But optimally speaking, those are the ones you kind of want to shoot for. And so if you have magnesium deficiencies, or you're not consuming enough magnesium in your diet, this is another activation cofactor that's required in order for you to have enough vitamin D in your system. So vitamin D keeps coming up low, not getting a lot of sunlight. Look at supplemental magnesium. Our soil and food supply is becoming very depleted in magnesium. So you want to make sure that you're getting somewhere between, and I know this is a decent amount, 400 to 1,000 milligrams of high quality magnesium a day. I put it in my electrolytes and water all the time. So there's a little liquid electrolyte I use. It's an awesome version from the Great Salt Lake. So they harvest a bunch of water from there, and it's got tons of elemental and ionic magnesium just right in the electrolyte solution. So boom, that can be added to the water. You can take magnesium bisglycinate anywhere between that 400 and 1,000 a day. The thing you have to watch out for with overdosing magnesium is it can cause some diarrhea. So if you notice that, or if you have disaster pants and you're not sure why, but you recently increased your magnesium, that's probably why. So that's where you're finding your sweet spot between 400 and 1,000. You don't have to go to the point of diarrhea. That's when you're probably going to want to pull it back. Excess body fat is a big one. So the more fat you carry around, you have a huge increase in need for vitamin D. And what happens is it's just less bioavailable in your body. So when people are obese or have excess body weight, the amount of vitamin D they need to take each day goes up because their body just has less bioavailability to it. So this is another case where you need to take more and get these cofactors going. So this is really important. Two other big deficiencies we see when the vitamin D levels just refuse to go up is boron, which is a trace mineral, and vitamin K2. So boron also really good for boosting testosterone. And again, that goes hand in hand with balancing the prohormone vitamin D3. So, if you have low testosterone or estrogen or progesterone issues, it's really good to make sure that you're using the benefits of the prohormone vitamin D3 and getting that tested and repleted. But boron can also be really good at 6 to 9 milligrams a day for helping increase testosterone naturally. So vitamin K2 I want to spend some time on because it's another lesser known fat soluble vitamin. Most people have heard of K1. It's used for clotting. K2 on the other hand has a slightly different function. The reason it's cool is because it's buddies with vitamin D3. So if you're going to high dose vitamin D3, say you're low and you want to take 10,000 units vitamin D3, you should also pair K2 with it. Why is this important? Well, if you take huge amounts of vitamin D3, one of its main functions is to help absorb calcium. So now you have this calcium coming in from the digestive tract into the bloodstream. We want that calcium into the bones and teeth. You don't want to tinker too much with your blood calcium levels because that can cause heart problems. So very important that if the calcium's coming in and it's well absorbed now because you're taking so much vitamin D, you want to make sure that calcium gets to the bones and teeth. And this is what K2 does. It activates osteocalcin, which helps clear calcium from the bloodstream and it puts it in the bones and teeth. This is a wonderful sort of, joint effort by the two, right? The calcium comes in from the vitamin D and now it's in the bloodstream and it can go to where it needs to with the activation of osteocalcin via K2. So K2, where do you get it in the diet? The trouble is it's like highest in goose liver and organ meats and certain types of aged and fermented cheeses. Really, people are not eating. Natto's another one, like fermented soy. A lot of people are not eating a ton of these foods, so they're not getting a lot of K2. And then you hyperdose, megadose these vitamin D3s, and there's not a lot of balance in the system. So if you're gonna do a lot of one's fat-soluble vitamin, you gotta make sure that you bring the other one up with it to keep it balanced. So not enough K2 will also cause your body to just sort of resist increasing the vitamin D3 levels because it has pretty good set points and homeostatic mechanisms within to prevent sort of, too much of one thing going up or down. So if you're dealing with low vitamin D, if you've been scared of the sun, I encourage you to get sensible sun exposure. And if oral supplements have not been enough to get you back in range, look into all these things I just mentioned here. And if you have any questions or comments, just be sure to drop them below. And if you need to reach out, please do so at any time. And as always, thank you for watching.